Clap one on three. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
Great.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I always feel like I have to I should use that as like the jumping off point for like a
No,
story or something,
I
but
got.
I'm just like, who knows? Who
Yeah, I'm
knows?
great. Well, listen, I got something for you.
Great.
Here's something I don't think I should say out loud.
I love it already.
Certainly not publicly.
Oh boy.
Today I had a choice. I had a list of things I had to do.
hmm hmm
And one of them was I needed to walk to this pet store to get Beans food because I was like, I don't know if I have enough time to order it and for it to arrive in time before I leave. And I don't want to put that on my friend who's going to be taking care of her. So I was like, I got to go to this store and get this food. And it's not that far, but it's like, it's like a 15-minute walk there, a 15-minute walk back.
Sure.
It wasn't that cold today. It was 0 Celsius, which I
Okay.
think
Okay.
balmy, downright balmy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, so I had done stuff around the house. I had gotten together all kinds of things that packing and sorting and like I had used the whole day. Was not lazy. But I
Sure.
got home carrying, so I'm walking Bean to the pet store to give her a nice walk because it's also nice and warm out. But then I got this bag of food that's so heavy and it's like I keep having to like change hands. Like I should have brought a backpack, but then I'm like, what's that gonna do to my neck? Anyway, I'm elderly. So I get back to the house and in my mind I went, drop Bean off, drop off the food, and then go and do your other errand, which is just walking 5 minutes the other way to Shoppers Drug Mart.
Sure.
Now, what do I need from Shoppers Drug Mart that's imperative? Toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Imperative.
Yeah.
Here's what I know you're thinking. But Lauren, aren't there smaller stores? You live downtown. Isn't there smaller stores before you get there that you could get toilet paper at? Yes, but I'm a snob. And there's very few kinds of toilet paper that I am happy with having in my own home. So it
hmm
had to be, got to go to the big show. But in this moment, I was like, gosh, I don't have that much time before Christy and I are supposed to record. I really want to order some Swiss Chalet. Ah,
Oh, yep.
I could make the effort and run out right now and get that toilet paper like a functional adult. Or I could just pull out that box of Kleenex I have and live that way for another day. Any bets on what I chose?
Well, I assume, um, based on your high level of preferences in toilet paper, that
Mhm.
you probably have a similar one for tissue. So I have to
Without
assume
question.
all your downstairs parts are still comfortable. I mean, as soon as you said, like, I have to go get toilet paper, I I eventually got to like, oh, there's Kleenex, there's paper towel. Paper towel isn't ideal, but like there's that. But what was the first thing that popped in my head? My brain went, ah, there's towels. Towels!
Towels!
Well, I have never once in my life used a towel as a bathroom tissue.
I could
Never, or
never.
any sort of tissue. It's just the fact that my brain was like, oh, there's towels. Towels.
I mean,
What am I thinking?
in an extreme situation, like we're talking some sort of
Oh,
apocalypse or I don't know, like, yeah, of course. But yeah, I think generally I don't want to shit on my towels, but
no. But here's okay, here's the other thing.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, I've never done that, so I don't know why my brain went there. I also could have just not said that, but well, that's not who I am. Have you seen, and I didn't know we were discussing this, so I don't remember specific details, but there are people who have like a reusable
Yeah.
toilet paper.
I did a scene when I was at Second City in 2007. That
Oh,
was almost 20 years ago. Get out of my head and my life. Um, I did a scene where it was like my character was a real kind of like earthy type. And it
Oh.
was like I was telling my husband in the scene, I was like, well, we've got that bucket of rags.
Mhm.
And people do that. People do that.
I mean, no judgment. To each their own, whatever you're comfortable with. I could never, as someone who literally suggested towels, I could never. I'm also going to say this. I too am very specific to the point where I went for groceries today and the free item, if you spend a certain amount, you get the item for free, was the store brand
Nope.
package of toilet paper, like a
Nope.
massive, like 24 pack of the store brand stuff. And I was a snob. Yeah. I didn't turn it down. I took it and then I put it over in like a donation bin
Oh, that's
because
nice.
I was like, I'd rather do that. And we do that every year when they usually have free turkey, like a massive frozen turkey. And I'm just like, we never need that much. And so I always just tell them to donate it because I'd rather do that. But yeah, we're very specific. Like if I ever say to my husband or he says to me like, "Oh, we need toilet paper," there's not a chance either of us are going to that store and coming home with anything else other than the exact same one. Like,
Well, I want to know what one it is. Maybe we have crossover.
well, we're Charmin people.
Gross.
Specifically, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
Specifically, the Charmin Strong. We won't do the Charmin
Mm.
Soft. We're the Charmin Strong. And again, like we'll I can't believe this is how I'm saying it. We'll piss and shit anywhere. Like what I mean. I gotta stop going with what the first thing is in my head.
No, you don't.
It's been a long week. Um, I just like we're not gonna go into a like a restaurant bathroom or a bathroom at somebody's home and walk out and just go, no thanks, I'll hold it.
Oh, yes, of
Like
course, of course.
whatever it is, it is. But for our own purchases, it's only ever
Yeah,
a strong Charmin.
I'm not taking squares of my toilet paper from home, putting it in a zippy, putting it in my purse, and then pulling that out if I'm at like a buffet. Like, no, I'm not, because obviously I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom at a buffet. We're vibrating at another level, and I couldn't be happier about it. Um, no, I agree with you. It's not like I'm like so repulsed by it. I'm gonna be turned off at someone else's home. But for
Sure.
me, and I don't know whether do you have Cottonelle in Canada or is this an American product?
I You'll love this. I've seen the package, but I love that I can't remember
Yeah,
if I saw it in person
I
or if I
haven't been
saw it in a video online. I
possibly in the
think
background of one of my videos.
part of me
Um,
thinks it's here.
I thought it was too. I haven't seen it. Listen, we're gonna find this out, but it's the purple Cottonelle is the
Oh,
one
I
that's my
think I've
go-to.
only ever seen a blue. Is
Yes, the
that a thing?
blue in a pinch. I prefer the purple package. Um, but I will also do Royale in Canada.
Now, here's the thing. Um, also, how fucking funny is it that you said that toilet paper would do it in a pinch?
Oh my God. I want to make something clear. I was bringing this up because of my shame about choosing to live the way I was living. I wasn't trying to devolve into like a bunch of potty jokes, but here we are. It's been a while since we've had a good poo talk on
Yeah,
the
here's
show.
the thing. Look, I'll say it. We're recording two full episodes back to back, and we're already, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So we were
yeah.
already very there at the beginning of the last episode, and so this is a very lengthy record for us. So mentally, the spiraling is only going to continue. But I just literally typed Cottonelle in Canada, and they were like, "Do you want to get this at Walmart?"
Okay, so I guess it's just not at the, well, maybe it's with the Canadian, the tariff stuff. Maybe my local places just aren't,
Oh,
because I'm assuming it's an American company. So I'm happy to buy the Royale in Canada, is my point.
here's the thing. There's a Reddit from a year ago.
Okay.
That's their preference is Cottonelle. Um, Specifically, I use the Cottonelle toilet paper exclusively. Um, Okay. Carries a roll around with them at all times.
Oh,
What's a good
wow.
substitution? I really, really want to support purchasing Canadian made and produced only. So, oh, apparently Royale is Canadian. I won't do
That
it.
this is what I'm saying. You won't do it. You don't like the Royale.
Um, I think the Royale, I don't know if it's the Royale because that's the one with the cat on it, right?
Meow. Fucking hell. Why? Why?
Oh,
That
here
was
we
me
go.
going, I'm gonna meow yes, and she'll know I was meowing yes. We're again just
I mean, you're gonna love this. I'm gonna double check to see if it's at my store just to verify. But Canadian Tire sells a 24 pack of Cottonelle for 18.99. It does say, unfortunately, this product is discontinued at your store.
well, and
So
listen,
maybe it did, but does not
but when
anymore.
in Canada, I'm happy to buy Canadian products. Obviously, Royale's not available in the States, so I have to buy American down there as far as I know. But I'm happy to buy the Royale while I'm here. That's all right.
Oh, here we go. Cottonelle 24 mega, which is 96 rolls. Uh, on sale for 25.99 at Superstore.
Ironic.
Specifically the real Canadian Superstore Jerry Fitzgerald Drive. I don't know where that is.
Hmm.
If I click on it, is it going to be like, where are you? Because it didn't
Where
ask.
are
Well,
you?
there we go. Toronto.
Wow.
So there is Cottonelle Ultra Comfort, which is the purple one.
Yep.
Um, in yeah,
You know what?
yeah.
I'm gonna when I get back home to LA, I'm gonna mail you a couple rolls.
Also, just buy a pack.
No, 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 no. I don't want you to have to be tied to it, and you can't donate a half empty bag. So,
Now, when's the last time you wiped with a Charmin? Are we doing a TP swap? Because you know we're only going to be thinking this the next time we're in each other's homes.
of course.
We're going to head to the bathroom and be like, well, I know what it's not. I don't even know how we got onto the okay. Well, the bear commercial is always intense and they're always like constant with the Charmin. And I think that's how we got into it. But we weren't buying like various brands and trying them and going, no, not my tush. Not my tush. I'm worried about us, you know?
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not
what's gonna
getting
happen when we
better.
get to the end of this one? I don't know. Um, no, I
Thankfully,
guess
we're
for
not
me,
recording anything after that.
here's what it, yeah, we have to have limits. I guess for me, I find Charmin dusty. Sorry. Why did I say that just as you were drinking? But there's like I don't know, there's a dust that comes off of it. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Interesting. Well, you know what? I'm headed out tomorrow. I'm going to write down Cottonelle, and my
The
husband's going to be
purple.
like, why are we buying that? And I'm going to be like, just, you'll find out
It's
in 3 weeks.
it's for science. The purple. The blue's fine, but the purple,
Dozen a pinch.
it doesn't a pinch. When you're pinching off a loaf, don't do it, Lauren. Why?
Also, I wrote down, so I just want you to know, I like that. I don't know whether you meant to or whether you meant to skip over it like you did, but I like that you called Shoppers the Big Show. I really liked that you said that as though if you went, I went to the Big Show, we'd all go, ooh, Shoppers Drug Mart. I like that a lot. A lot.
I listen. I need to make it clear. We don't get money from these brands, okay? We shouldn't be just constantly advertising places, but here's what I'll say. I love Shoppers Drug Mart and I don't care, okay?
Sure.
I don't care. I don't, there's something about the smell of it, about the fluorescent lights in there. I don't know. I think you know what it is? My first credit card I ever had was a Shoppers Optimum one. So you got
Oh,
points with every purchase. And so I would get like $150, like a coupon for $150, like every couple months. Like it was like it was a great credit card. And when you're young and in your early 20s, I think I just have this reverence for like, man, I felt like a fucking queen in Shoppers Drug Mart because I was walking around getting anything I wanted for free.
There it is.
I haven't lost that. I think that
Oh,
that's what it is.
they treated you with respect.
They treated me with dignity.
Yeah. And also,
Much
you can
un
get so much at Shoppers.
Oh yeah, it's not just drugs.
It's which we sound like we're on, I think.
Hmm.
Um, you're right. They've also in this is how it's coming out in this town. They are the place for a squishmallow, especially a like a holiday themed squishmallow. They're like the
Same.
one place that we actually get the squishmallows. Not all of them, because I'm still pissed months later that I missed out on that fucking Halloween cow. The like super angry one that was just like, I'm over it. I think its name was Smithereens or something like that. And I was just like, I'm gonna find this cow. Nowhere in this town. And then I looked online. Nowhere. Ooh, when's the last time I checked eBay? How many product placements and like companies can we name that don't pay us?
It's
Ah,
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I
yeah,
couldn't love it more. Anyway, bottom line is this.
yeah.
Shoppers Drug Mart treated me with the decency that I lack for myself as I
Mhm.
wipe my tuchus with a goddamn piece of Kleenex. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. I didn't anticipate Tookus. Somehow I felt I should have, but I just didn't see it coming. And as always, I'm charmed.
Thank you.
Secondly, I feel seen because I understand. It's like be again, forgive how this is coming out.
Hmm.
Being respected now,
Yeah.
lovely. Sometimes surprising, lovely. Being respected when you're like 19, 20, and someone is like treating you like you're an adult, that is an out of body experience. Because when I was 19, we had a local election, and a certain gentleman was going canvassing door to door and was like,
I like that you're
obviously,
protecting his anonymity now, 20 plus years later.
it doesn't even, it's fine.
It's no, no, keep going.
But he was going door to door. He came down my street. I was home alone and hungover as shit. To be clear, 19 is legal drinking age in the province of Saskatchewan. I just didn't want anyone to think I was setting bad examples, like wiping your shit on a towel. Anyway, so he comes to the door. I'm also one, hungover as hell. Two, have not showered from my bar experience the night before. And three, I'm in pajamas. Four, it's afternoon. Like it's mid-afternoon at best. So the doorbell rings. I go down there. I probably look and smell horrific. I open the door. This man looked me in my eye. There was no sign on his face that he was like, my God. And you could tell, I'm sure he was just thinking, like, this is an absolute waste of my time. Like, I'm sure he was, but he was so kind and so sweet. And he gave me his whole thing. And in that moment, he treated me like I was a person, even though I looked like a gremlin. But like, he treated me like I was an adult. And I felt very like, oh, okay. Um, I voted for him. He's
Wow.
he's the reason I like signed up to vote in the first place because I was like, nah, I'm not gonna bother with that. He's the reason I was motivated to go, I'm gonna start voting, and here we go. And every once in a while, I see him like walking in town and I start getting like teary-eyed because I'm like, I'm so convinced one day we're gonna like meet face to face. I always see him when I'm driving. Um, but I'm just worried we're gonna see each other And I'm just going to be like, pardon me, over 20 years ago. You can, like, I'm worried I'm going to tell the story of how lovely he was to me and how he treated me like an actual person with respect. And I was so tickled. Like, I get choked up every time I see him walking around. So I just get teary over this sweet elderly man. And people probably think I'm not well. And if they listen to this, they'll know that's correct. But
I have many follow-up questions.
his name is Glenn Hagel. I wasn't hiding it.
I wasn't gonna ask.
Every time I see him, I just go, "Oh, Mr. Hagel."
Okay, I've got a bunch of follow-up questions here. I'll try
Yeah,
and get through these quickly.
yeah.
One, this isn't a question, it's a comment. I can't believe you opened the door at all. Two, good for
I
you.
I didn't realize there was an option not to.
No.
What? Like,
You know how you
okay.
never have to open the door, right? Like I don't open my door at all.
Oh, I've gotten much better about it,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, in that moment, I was like, it
Well,
was like Pavlov's dogs, where you like
it was also a
doorbell
different
ring, go
time.
answer the door. I just thought, I guess I just assumed I had to.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Next question.
Yeah.
Uh, did he win?
I think so. I love that. I'm like, I don't know.
I love that this man had such an indelible mark on your life. And you're like, I don't know if he won or not. He motivated me to vote. And then the other thing I think is amazing is that I think they must be trained, like a politician must be trained like a doctor or a therapist to not react, right? So like, because a vote's a vote, baby.
That is a good point. Um, you'll love this. So sorry. The Honorable Glenn Hagel.
Of
Um,
course.
he was a Legislative Assembly member of Saskatchewan for Moose Jaw North from 86 to 91. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's from Drumheller. Oh, that's fun.
The
Christy,
bones, the dinosaur bones.
the dinosaur bones. Now, I, there we go. Now, how old was I? I'm trying to
You,
think. I'm like, is this the election that I'm referring to? He was elected mayor in 2009. So I'm like, how old was I in 2009?
you weren't, God bless you, honey. You weren't 19 in
Okay.
2009.
Well, then I must have been voting for him for it would have been when he was Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan for Moose Jaw North, I assume.
And he
Oh,
won.
succeeded by Warren Mitchelson. Right. He was in office from 95 to 2007. And then I believe he
Okay.
left there, ran for mayor, won in 2009, retired in 2012.
Only did 3 years as mayor.
Yeah, I mean, he was born in 1949.
Uh-huh.
So I think by the time he got to 2012, he was like, I'm good.
I guess I just always think about mayors having longer rulings. Rulings?
Rulings.
I don't know what is it?
Um,
Stays? I don't
yeah,
know what you would
I
call
mean,
it.
in the movies, the mayor is just like always there forever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least four, I don't know. I guess I think about it like 4 years, like presidential terms, you know?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, here's what I like. I like that
Yeah.
he was running for something that sounds obscure to me and he was going door to door. Like you took it really seriously. And so that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, he was being the representative for very specific sections. So he was in like the parliament and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So yeah, I love that it's like, did he win? I think so.
What I love
Like,
was that it didn't
yeah.
matter. It was more about the experience for you.
Oh yeah, like again, like I know I need to look deeper at that. The fact that I get emotional when I see him because I'm just like I was so touched that he was just genuinely kind to me
Yeah.
in a moment where I was like, I don't know that most people would have been. Like I'm sure so many would have opened the door and been like, and like the sound that Silent Bob, or not Silent Bob, Jesus, Sideshow Bob makes when he thinks about Bart Simpson,
Mm,
that grumbly sort of thing. I'm like, that is what I expected.
right.
My God, is he the first adult who ever showed me respect?
Well, I've got my psychologist hat on, whether we like it or not, and I'm going to go ahead and say, sounds like it.
The fact that every time I see him, I genuinely try and like work up the courage to go tell him because for whatever reason, I'm convinced he wants to hear me say he's the reason that I ever started voting in the first place.
Why wouldn't he want to hear that?
I don't know. And it was like, I just want to, like, there's no way he's going to be like, I remember coming to your door. But it's like, well, it worked because
Yeah.
I did vote for you. I was like, none of the other jokers came to the door. I don't know that.
He might have
I,
just caught you on the day you were home.
yeah, he caught me hungover in the middle of the day. Maybe the others came in the evening when I was out pre-hungover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God, I'm painfully self-aware.
You're getting better by the day. And honestly, not that you were ever bad, but like you're just becoming more and more self-aware by the day. And,
Yeah.
I would encourage you as someone who has people approach me all the time. I just don't think that anybody doesn't want to hear if it's kind, like, of course, it's always nice to
Well,
hear that
that's
people
that's the thing.
appreciate you.
It would be very positive.
Yes.
But the problem is every time I see him, I like try and rehearse like a really quick thing because I don't want to take too much of his time and I don't want to be rambling which how can I not? But I want it just to be like quick and here you go and just want you to know like you were lovely to me and I've always remembered that. But I don't know, like every time I just practice it, like I just get very emotional. I'm like, I cannot cry in front of this man. This man.
Well, here, let's really do therapy then. Um,
Yeah.
why not?
I, I guess I don't know. I just people aren't supposed to see you emote. Why did I
Wow.
choose emote?
That's a big statement.
Wow, I was gonna say cry, but my body made me say emote. You're not
And
allowed emotions.
what happens if what would happen if somebody saw you emote?
I mean, first thing that pops in my head, he'd be disappointed in me because I didn't keep it together. I hear it.
I just want you to know we're 27 minutes in and I think we've done some major therapy. It's amazing that
Yeah.
we came in like vibrating on a level that was absolute madness. I'm
Yeah.
talking about fucking shit paper. And then we've somehow gotten into this real moment where it's like, what does that mean though? Yeah. Like this is the beauty
It's
of this show. Like I just have to say, this is the beauty of us, really.
it is
Um,
wild to go from shit tickets to literally like, hey, how do you feel?
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah. What would happen then? I love those therapy questions though. I love when it's like,
Yeah.
well, what would happen then? And then you go like, oh yeah, wait a second, what would happen then?
The hardest part for me is when asked, then immediately I'm just like, oh, you don't have it. Don't say anything. Like, but then I'm getting better at like, no, answer the question. I mean, that's how it sounds in my head. It's like gun to my head, answer the fucking question. Like that's
And listen, to be clear, you can always say, I don't want to talk about this and I won't be offended. You never have to answer the
no,
question. It's,
I understand there's more work to do.
but I think you're doing great work is the
But
point.
but yeah, look, I won't promise anything. But when I see him at some point again, if I'm not going to yell at him from my car, but like if we're in walking, oh, that's only happened once. He was leaving a store and I was behind, but I slowed down because I didn't want to end up having that conversation. But yeah, my God. And like 3 weeks ago, I saw him. I was stopped at a red light and I saw him and he was about to cross the street. And I just did my like, oh God, there he is. And then I backed the car slightly just to make sure I was fully away from the sidewalk or the cross. And as he walked by, he lifted his head and he gave me like a nod and a wave. And in my head, I went, he's done it again.
I listen. Of course, you do whatever feels right for you always. The
Yeah.
only thing I will also offer to you, see that more therapy talk. I'll offer this to you. The only other thing
Beautiful.
I would offer to you is he was born in 1949.
I've thought about it. I've already thought about it since I said the year of his birth. I'm like, that's,
And you may
yep.
you listen, again,
Hmm.
you do what's right for you and doesn't have to be forced. I'm not suggesting that, but
I love that just the small handful of local people are going to be like, I know who that is. Like literally everybody else is going to be like, I don't know. I don't know. He's just this sweet, tiny old man.
yeah, I think people get it. Like, I don't think people need to know him to get it. I mean, it's
Oh my
obviously was very
God.
impactful on you, which is a beautiful thing. And I know you as somebody who is very invested in voting. That's something that I know
Yeah.
of you. So I had no idea that there was a catalyst, that it was this person, and how wonderful.
Yeah. Like
I
in
think of
that moment.
anybody who would appreciate that. It's that man. Like, this man clearly has like a devotion to public service. He would love to know that he inspired you to vote.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I didn't, I was very like, I think I can vote. I think I'm old enough, but I don't know. And I guess he just made me realize I was like, I should be voting. Why am I not voting? And then I started and I realized this sounds like I'm stalking him. I swear to God, I'm not. I think we just live in similar
It's a small
areas.
town. It's a small town.
Um, but uh, he's had a beard in the last few years. And honestly, if he was an actor, I think he'd be a great Santa.
There's
And maybe
more
that's part of
there's
it
more
for me.
layers to this coming out by the second. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
God. Yep. I see it. I hear it. Yeah.
Just remember, that's 95% of the work.
Well, there we go. There we go. I see
Some
it.
people,
I
yeah,
understand it. I
yeah.
just have to allow myself the ability to feel it. What is that? I said that
Well,
and shit tickets in the same show.
again, this is what brings people back. Um, I
Oh.
mean, listen, I think you are feeling it.
Oh,
What
shit.
I'm hearing that I'll reflect back to you is
Mhm.
that you're afraid of someone else perceiving you feeling.
Interesting. Well, apparently,
Yeah.
because I think we know my biggest fear. I might tell you spiders. No, disappointing someone. I think we all know that.
Yeah. And then if I was a therapist, I would say, what if I told you that your feelings won't disappoint anybody?
Oh, well, I'm going to need more years of therapy to to decide that I believe that. But yeah,
Right.
I get
Yeah.
that. The thing is, why aren't you a therapist? You know what I mean?
I think I'd be really good at it.
I think you would. I mean, you've been my therapist for decades.
And it's been an honor. It's been an honor. Yeah,
It's just nice that we've started, publishing our sessions.
yeah.
Only in the last 5 years have they been made public.
But listen, in those 5 years, your growth has been so exponential. It'd be hard to avoid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, it's just time to do the work. Just a buffoon.
Oh my God. Listen, what a gift. Well, on that note, let's get into it. We've got lots to talk about. We're, of course, in part two of our Laci Peterson coverage here on True Crime and Cocktails. This is, of course, February's patrons poll pick over on patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails. Members will vote for one of the episodes we cover here on the main feed of the show per month. So if you're interested in that, go to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn a little bit more. All right. So previously on True Crime and Cocktails, we talked about the disappearance and subsequent murder of Laci Peterson and her unborn child, Connor. Laci's husband, Scott, was arrested for the crime, and today we'll talk about the media circus trial that followed. In the final episode of this gripping two-parter, Christy will get into a deep dive on Scott's family, as well as a look at the trial and all the shocking evidence that was somehow not mentioned in court. We already know that Scott was a liar and a cheat, but now we have to decide, was he also a murderer? Christy Oxborrow investigates.
Given that I read these notes back to back, and given that we literally are recording these back to back, I know I used the same. But was he a murderer? Like, I understand I used the same in that synopsis as I did at the end of the episode. It just felt right.
Yeah, it felt
And the
deliberate.
way
I
you
thought that was
say
deliberate.
liar, like,
He's a liar.
liar. And he is. He is. There's no debate. He lies. He just does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. He
Oh,
lies seemingly for sport.
yeah. 100%.
Not great.
Oh, so disclaimer. This episode contains the mention of fetal death, so trigger warning for those who need it. Again, as with part one, as part of my research for this episode, I watched the Netflix documentary American Murder, Laci Peterson, and the Peacock documentary Face to Face with Scott Peterson. Honestly, one was like, oh, he's guilty, and the other was like, oh, he's innocent. So it was fascinating to watch the two different sides. I also read the books Blood Brother by Anne Bird and A Deadly Game by Catherine Cryer. Now, as Lauren mentioned, this is the second episode in a two-part series. So if you missed the last episode, you'll likely want to go back and give that part a listen before diving into this one. You don't have to. I'm not your mama. You could do whatever you like. You have free will, is my point.
She's not your mama. She's a little sleep slut. See, we're recording this on the same day, so we remember the bits.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas normally we would forget most of them.
Yeah,
But what a beautiful, beautiful thing. Um, and honestly, if you guys want me to adopt you, I'll be your mama.
of course.
And then I'll tell you, go back and listen to that first episode. It'll make so much more sense when listening to this one. Um, but obviously, for everyone listening, there's been a week between the two episodes, so I'm going to give a brief rundown of events just as like a slight refresher. This case takes place in Modesto, California, which is roughly 104 miles east of San Francisco and 136 miles southeast of Santa Rosa, where the 1986 comedy musical Peggy Sue Got Married was filmed. The movie stars Kathleen Turner, Helen Hunt, Jim Carrey, Joan Allen, Catherine Hicks, Sofia Coppola, and Nicolas Cage.
There she goes.
Yeah, things aren't so bad. I have to mention him now. You know,
Yep.
it's just where you can find it. Um, On Christmas Eve 2002, 27-year-old Laci Peterson disappeared from her Modesto home while 8 months pregnant. At the time of her disappearance, Laci's husband Scott was nearly 90 miles away fishing in the San Francisco Bay. For months, Scott acted an absolute fool and continued to behave in a way that made him come across as guilty. Just a few examples. Scott said his decision to go fishing was last minute, morning of, but there is proof he pre-purchased a fishing license for that exact day 4 days earlier. He returned to the bay 5 separate times, not to fish, but just to stand and stare at the water for 2 to 3 minutes before leaving, keeping in mind the bay was over 80 miles away. Within a month of Laci's disappearance, Scott spoke to a realtor about selling the house. He didn't tell his parents Laci was missing until the next day. A week after Laci disappeared, police discovered that Scott had been having an affair for over a month and that he was still continuing the relationship despite his wife's unknown whereabouts. Scott refused to do any interviews about his wife's disappearance, instead, leaving that to her family and friends. And then when he finally agreed to do an interview, it was only because his girlfriend had done one 4 days earlier. About 12 hours after he had last seen his wife, Scott asked police if they were going to bring out cadaver dogs. And my personal favorite sketchy moment is when Scott called his girlfriend claiming to be standing in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris during a New Year's Eve celebration, when in reality he was participating at a candlelight vigil for his wife. The wife that his girlfriend, well, at the time, he didn't know that she knew about her.
Right.
She didn't know when they first got together. She knew by this point. Um, Nearly 4 months after Laci was last seen, her remains, as well as those of their unborn son, washed ashore in the very area where Scott had been fishing the morning Laci went missing. The day the remains were officially identified, Scott was arrested and charged with 2 counts of capital murder. He later pleaded not guilty. As I mentioned before, he was appointed a public defender. Less than 2 weeks later, his family hired Mark Garagos, a defense attorney who'd been publicly defending Scott on Larry King Live from the moment Laci disappeared. During a press conference, Mark Garagos claimed the entire thing was a witch hunt and said that Scott Peterson is stone cold innocent. Which, I mean, I get what he's going for, but I've just never heard it said that way before. 8 months after Scott's arrest, Laci's mother, Sharon Roca, filed a wrongful death suit against Scott, seeking $5 million in damages. It was said the family wants to be sure that Scott suffers the greatest of civil and criminal penalties. Now, before we get into the trial, because I know that's what we really want to get into, I want to dive deeper into the Peterson family because they are fascinating from a psychological standpoint. So, as I briefly mentioned in the first episode, Scott's parents are Lee and Jackie Peterson. The couple both had 3 children each from previous relationships when they got married in November 1971. The following October, they had Scott, who was the golden child. Now, from the best I can tell, Lee's 3 children all came from his first marriage. The kids were 9, 10, and 12 when Scott was born. And while they lived with their mother during the week, they spent most weekends with their father and Jackie. Jackie's situation, however, is a little more complicated. To be clear, there is no judgment here either way. It was just very different from Lee's. So Jackie was born in the fall of 1943. When she was 19, she gave birth to a son, Don. Now, from what I've heard, Jackie's parents wouldn't let her keep the baby, so she put him up for adoption. 2 years later, Jackie was pregnant again. This time, the father offered to marry her. Jackie turned him down, as is her prerogative. Since Jackie wasn't sure she'd be able to care for the baby, her doctor suggested a couple he knew who were looking to adopt. So after Jackie gave birth to a daughter in 1965, the doctor recommended couple adopted her and named her Anne. According to Anne, she had a beautiful childhood and said she always felt really loved. She had 3 other siblings. One was adopted, 2 were biological. She said they never once felt like they were treated any differently from each other. So again, that's beautiful, and I love that for her.
Yes.
In 1966, Jackie gave birth to a son named John. According to author Catherine Cryer, a source close to the family says that Jackie considered putting John up for adoption, but for some reason her doctor advised her against it. It was said Jackie sent John to live with family members until 1971 when she married Lee. After that, John lived with his mother and later shared a bedroom with his younger brother, Scott. John is the same brother whose driver's license Scott was carrying when he was arrested. It turns out that until 1996, no one in the family knew about Jackie's first 2 children. In 1996, Jackie received a letter from Don saying he was her son. She read the letter out loud, and that's how Lee and the children learned that Don and Anne even existed. I
Wow.
I'd like to know, did she know what the letter was? Did she read it first and then read it out loud? Or does she always read her mail out loud? I don't know. So according to Anne, Don went looking for Jackie after his adopted parents died. He became estranged from his adopted sister, and he wanted more family in his life. From the moment that Don and Jackie reconnected, Don instantly was calling Jackie mom. He was very comfortable. He was very happy with this relationship. In June 1997, Don reached out to Anne and offered to introduce her to Jackie and her family. Jackie told her, "You can call me mom." Anne went, "I just don't feel that I'm comfortable with that." Which more than fair.
Yeah, that's her
So,
prerogative, of
and
course.
Jackie was like, understood. But, they were still starting to become close. She met the family. Um, Anne later said that Scott seemed really excited to meet her. He made a comment about like he has a lot of brothers, but he's really short on sisters. Anne said he was charming. He seemed genuine. She quickly grew close to both Scott and Laci. According to Anne's book, Blood Brother, Jackie wasn't always the nicest when it came to Laci. There was an example of a time when Jackie was making fun of Laci's outfit behind her back during a phone call to Anne. To be clear, also at the time, Laci was very pregnant. So that feels like something. Um, and then once, after receiving a thank you card from Laci after the baby shower, Jackie told Anne she didn't like the card that Laci had sent. She felt it was very by the book. So she was thinking she would send Laci a book on how to write thank you notes.
Jesus.
When Anne mentioned this to Scott, he simply sighed and said, "Ah, yeah, those two." As though there have been numerous issues over the years. I'm only speculating, but it sounds to me like someone didn't like being replaced by another woman in her golden boy's life. But Jackie and Laci weren't the only ones having issues. According to Anne, Laci and Scott were also going through something. In November 2002, Anne suggested a family trip to Disneyland. Jackie said she talked to Scott about it, but, quote, they're having problems again. When Anne pushed for details, Jackie simply said, quote, just, men.
Jackie said that about her own son.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Does that mean that Scott was cheating and Laci found out? Since this happened in November, like early November, he can't have, like, this can't have been referring to Amber Fry because the trip was before Scott met Amber. So was this referring to another woman or is it referring to something completely? We know based on a conversation um, with a friend of Laci's, Laci was upset about how much time Scott spent away from the home. He was traveling a lot for work. He also had a work trip coming up to go to Europe at the end of January. The baby was due mid-February. She had told him, don't go on the trip. Um, so maybe that was causing an issue for them. Again, it's just the way of saying men. Did she mean because they're stubborn? Not all of them, but or did she mean because he was cheating? Like that's just kind of, like the
Well,
way
it's
she
also
said it,
damning coming from his own mother that refers to him as like the golden child and everything. It's like,
right?
yeah. And we know that she had been negative about Lacey. So for her to call Scott out just that feels important.
Like even she's like, oh, even for me, that's too far.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anne spoke to Lee and Jackie after the news came out about Scott's affair with Amber Fry. Jackie said, quote, so Scott slept with a bimbo. So what? Lee added, quote, men stray sometimes. Couple of things.
Yeah.
One, Amber was not a bimbo. She was a single woman looking for love who thought she was dating a single man looking for the same. And two, can this family please stop acting like affairs are no big deal? It is unsettling how relaxed they seem about it. The patriarchy is absolutely thriving in this family.
Yeah.
When Anne asked Scott directly about Amber, he said it meant nothing. Then, according to Anne, he said, quote, people cheat. Don't act like people never cheat. I mean, I remember one time on this long flight, I took turns with two women in two separate bathrooms. And another time, there was this girl in San Luis Obispo. It was just sex, nothing else. It's like for them, there's love and there's sex, and those two things just are not connected for some reason, is how this almost feels. Um, Anne asked if Laci knew about Amber. Scott said, quote, yes, and she was extremely pissed off, okay? And just when you think that Scott couldn't be more of a creep, he said, quote, she'll get through it. She's been through it before. It was no big deal. Look, I get why the public turned on this man.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Yes.
there's not There's,
Yes,
you could close your eyes and throw something, and you're going to hit a reason why this man damned himself, really.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, 100%.
I, again, it's just, a- again, also, and I know this shouldn't be a thing, but to tell Amber for so long that it's like you really care about her, you see a future with her, all of this, and then you're just telling people it was nothing. She was nothing to me. And he says it publicly too. He's like, there was nothing. We had sex, that was it. And I'm like, and now you're hurting her worse than you've already hurt her,
Right.
making her feel like nothing. Like, good God. Anyway. Oh, so while I seem to just be spilling the tea that Anne poured in her own book, I'll also point out that weeks after Lacey's disappearance, Jackie asked if Scott could go and stay with Anne in Berkeley, which makes me wonder if, because it would have been so much closer to the marina, is that why he kept going back? Because he was
Mm.
living so much closer. Um, but while there, again, just weeks after his wife disappeared, Scott hit on the 22-year-old girl who babysat Anne's kids. And when Jackie called the house and the babysitter answered, Jackie said, quote, I wish Scott could meet someone like you. She also raved about how much Scott had told her how, or had mentioned to his mother how attractive this girl is. So I'm like, that's nope, nope, nope. Um, again, I just want to remind you, at no point in Lacey's disappearance was it ever suggested that she maybe left Scott on her own willingly. Within the first day, it was established she'd been taken. So it's wild to talk so glibly about a potential new woman for Scott.
Yeah.
Anne also pointed out that Scott took a ski trip with friends while his pregnant wife was missing. When he got back, Anne noticed that Scott's hair was now blonde. When she asked him about it, he said there was too much chlorine in the hotel pool and it bleached his hair.
Oh, yeah, because that scientifically could happen.
Yeah. Um, when the cops asked him, he claimed he did it to be less noticeable in public. Maybe some people think he did it to be able to look like the license he was carrying around that actually belonged to his brother.
Yeah.
Now, again, we're getting to the trial, but before that, I have to mention something about the Peterson family because it is true crime related, and we are, after all, a true crime show. When Jackie Peterson was just 2 years old, her father, John Latham, was murdered. On the night of December 21st, 1945, the fact that he was murdered on the 21st and Lacey went missing on the 23rd just feels, I know it was very long apart, but what are
Yeah.
the odds of,
Feels like a generational
this feels
something happening.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
John was working at his salvage and tire shop. He spoke to his wife Helen on the phone around 9 p.m. to say he was making one last sale and that he'd be home shortly. When John still hadn't arrived hours later, Helen assumed he'd gone out for drinks with some friends because that happened fairly often. When Helen woke the next morning and discovered that John still hadn't returned home, she immediately called police to report her husband missing. Around 7 a.m., an employee arrived at the tire shop and discovered John's body in the equipment shed. He'd been struck in the back of the head. Near the body, police found a 33-inch long metal pipe, which is believed to have been the murder weapon. John Latham was just 32 at the time of his death. 2 hours later, police arrested 25-year-old Robert Sewell, who had recently been fired by John. Robert claimed he was with his wife at the time of the crime, and since his wife corroborated it, Sewell was released. The next day, Robert fled to Los Angeles and then fled to Alabama. 4 years later, Sewell returned to San Diego, where he was arrested for public drunkenness. He was sentenced to 20 days. Robert Massey, a friend of Robert Sewell, was arrested on other charges, and to save himself, Massey told police that Sewell had confessed to John's murder when the two men were out drinking together 3 years earlier. Sewell was brought in for questioning, and when he saw Massey speaking with police, he knew that was it for him, so he immediately confessed. He said on the night of December 21st, he showed up at the tire shop around 8:30 at night. He could see John counting receipts and getting ready to close for the night. Sewell said he found a pipe, and when John left the office, Sewell hit him in the back of the head. He said he took the money from John's wallet as well as $100 from John's desk. Sewell then told his wife he'd done a small robbery and asked her to be his alibi if he should ever need it. Robert Sewell was arrested and eventually convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, where he died from pneumonia just 2 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. After John's death, Helen struggled to raise their 4 children alone, so they were placed in a care home run by Catholic nuns when Jackie was just 5 years old. The children were only allotted one visit a week with their mother, who died when Jackie was just 18.
Hmm.
I also think there was something, and I don't fully remember it in this moment, but something about when her mother was ill near the end of her life. I think Jackie was like her main caretaker.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, we finally got to that moment that you've all been waiting for, assuming that you've been waiting for the trial, because that's what we're going to talk about. In January 2004, the judge announced that to ensure a fair trial, the venue was going to change to Redwood City, 90 miles west of Modesto. But I mean, at the time, the amount of time that Scott was spoken about on the news nationwide, I think it'd be difficult to ensure an unbiased jury no matter how far away you traveled for that trial. The trial officially started on June 1st, 2004. Since there was no murder weapon and no official crime scene, the case was pretty circumstantial. The prosecution pushed the idea that Scott suddenly felt that having a child would muck up the no responsibility lifestyle that Scott loved, and his only way to be with Amber was to kill his wife. The defense, however, claimed that Scott was being framed for murder and that just because he cheated on his wife doesn't mean he's a killer. The prosecution claimed Scott lied about what happened on the morning of December 24th. He claimed that from 9 to 9:30, he watched Martha Stewart Living with Laci. Police asked Scott what was on the show to try and catch him, to prove he didn't watch it. And Scott said he didn't remember much, but he knows they mentioned something about meringue. Detectives watched the episode and said it didn't mention anything about meringue. So the prosecution used this as a big aha kind of moment in the case. And then the defense literally wheeled out a TV to play a clip from the episode. And sure enough, 48 minutes in, Martha Stewart and her guest talk about making meringue. It was just such an easy thing to prove. I'm shocked the police messed it up. It immediately made the investigators come across as bumbling. However, just because Scott saw that one moment doesn't mean Laci watched it with him, and it doesn't mean that she was alive at the time. It did, however, prove a slight shift in Scott's timeline. He claimed he left the house that morning at 9:30, but the meringue moment wasn't mentioned until 9:48. Therefore, Scott was home longer than he initially claimed, only by 18 minutes, so it could mean nothing, but it helps narrow down the timeline of when she potentially disappeared. Medical examiners testified to state that they were unable to determine the cause of death for either Laci or Connor, keeping in mind that Laci's head, hands, and feet were never found. It was stated that since there were no signs of man-made injuries, like a bullet or a stab wound, it is believed that Laci was likely strangled or smothered before being put in the water. Photos of Laci and Connor's remains were shown in court, but they were said to be so horrific that a judge officially sealed the photos to prevent them from becoming public. And I think that's for the best. I don't know that you should have made the jury look at that.
I mean,
You're driving a point home. I get it, but I really hope
that
you
would have been a
warned them.
prosecution move, right? Because it's like you want to make them feel outraged and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Less than a month into the trial, one of the jurors had to be dismissed after being spotted outside of court talking to Laci's brother.
Oh boy.
Yeah. On August 10th, the prosecution's star witness took the stand. Amber Fry was in a relationship with Scott at the time of Laci's disappearance, but at the time she wasn't aware that Scott was married. In fact, early on in their relationship, Scott outright told Amber he was a widower. As you may recall from the last episode, the day after Scott told Amber his wife was dead, Scott bought a boat. When Amber discovered the truth about that Scott was not only married, but that his wife was also missing, Amber immediately contacted police on December 30th, and detectives asked Amber to record her phone calls with Scott in the hopes he would confess. Detectives were able to get a wiretap for Scott's phone so they could hear both sides of the conversation. With Amber on the stand, the prosecution played some of the tapes from these conversations while also giving the jury printed out transcripts from these calls just to really drive the point home that Scott was a cheating bastard. In one of the recordings, Scott outright said he didn't want to be a father and he was considering getting a vasectomy. In another, Scott claimed to be celebrating New Year's Eve in Paris, but at the time of the call, he was attending a candlelight vigil for Laci. And honestly, of all the things we have solid evidence that Scott has actually done, this to me might be the worst. Your pregnant wife has been missing for a week, and at a vigil dedicated to her, you were on the phone to your girlfriend, whom you referred to as baby. It's beyond gross to me and a level of heartless that I just can't comprehend. After Scott realized that Amber knew the truth, they had multiple conversations about Scott's lies. In more than one of these conversations, Scott referred to Connor as Laci's child. Amber then outright asked Scott if the baby was his. He said, quote, "I cannot tell you everything." Amber pushed harder and said, "It's a simple yes or no." Scott said, quote, "Honestly, to protect everyone, I can't tell you everything." What the fuck does that even mean, Scott?
Yeah.
Amber then asked if Scott's parents knew about her. He said no. She pointed out that in an earlier conversation, he claimed he had gone on a trip with his parents and said he'd talked their ear off about Amber. Scott admitted that trip never really happened. The prosecution pushed the idea that Scott didn't want to be a father, and the only way to be with Amber was to kill Laci. But to the defense's point, having an affair doesn't automatically make him a killer. It makes him a piece of shit, but not necessarily a killer. But to the prosecution, Amber was the smoking gun in this case. In one of the documentaries, I don't remember his name, but he was juror number 4. He said he didn't care about the affair. I went back multiple times to make sure I got this right. His exact quote: "Cheated on his wife? Whoopee! That and $1 won't buy you a cup of coffee at Starbucks." I just really liked that he said that as though it was a well-used expression.
Yeah, I've
It
never heard anything like that in my life.
it makes zero sense, but I'm 100% charmed.
Yep.
Ah, but multiple members of the jury agreed an affair didn't mean that Scott was the killer. However, after hearing that Scott told Amber that Laci was dead weeks before she disappeared, and the fact he called his girlfriend from his missing wife's vigil made them start considering the possibility that Scott could be guilty. When it was time for Amber to be cross-examined, Scott's attorney, Mark Garagos, said, "No questions, Your Honor." The courtroom literally gasped. One of the jurors audibly went, "What?" Garagos then said, quote, "Just kidding, trying to lighten it up a little." Sir,
That's so awful.
this is a
Oh,
murder trial
oh my
in a
God.
court of law. Grow up, you aren't a chucklehead. Yeah. It just
Oh my God.
it felt like he was trying to distract the jury as the recordings were incredibly damaging to his case. It felt
Right.
like he had no comeback. So he was like, "I'll lighten things up, take their minds off it, whatever." Still didn't care for it. Also damaging to the case was the fact that Scott seemed laid back and completely unbothered in his police interviews, as though he didn't have a care in the world. Many people have described it as emotionless, and claimed it was an automatic sign of guilt. I don't want to say anything for him, but honestly, he might have been in shock. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible he felt nothing because he is responsible and unable to feel real feelings. I don't know. But it's also possible mentally he was going through it and just didn't know how to, because some people feel like they're not allowed to show emotion. My God, that really into today. You know what I mean? Like that really, came around.
It
Anyway,
did. It
anyway.
did.
So Scott's lawyer, Mark Garagos, sent another attorney to the prison to practice cross-examination with Scott because they wanted to see how he would do. Apparently, he didn't do well because after that practice session, they decided Scott was not, absolutely not taking the stand during the trial. The defense also chose not to bring up any of the witnesses who claimed to have seen Laci walking the dog that morning after Scott left the house. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable, but Garagos said the prosecution would just discredit the witnesses, so it wasn't worth it. My guy,
Wild choice, my friend. Wild choice.
my guy, discrediting your witnesses is their job, just like it's your job to discredit theirs. But yet, multiple people claim to have seen Laci and the dog walking that morning. Many gave a time that was too early, and Laci would have been home with Scott at that time. The witnesses also claimed Laci was wearing a white shirt and black pants, which is the same clothing description Scott gave when Laci first disappeared. However, Laci was found wearing cream-colored maternity pants and a different top. So if she was taken during that walk, why would the killers change her outfit? Why were Laci's walking shoes still at the house? And if she was taken from the house, my question, did anyone hear the dog barking around that time in the neighborhood? There was also another pregnant woman who lived in that neighborhood who was out walking her chocolate lab around the same time Laci was supposedly seen. Is it possible they saw this woman instead? Is it possible they got the wrong date? One woman claimed she saw Laci walking the dog while she was standing at her sink washing dishes. Um, and she was later asked how she knows it was that day, and she was like, "Well, my husband was watching this. I think it was like a football game." And they looked it up, and the football game wasn't that day. So she remembered seeing her, but just not that specific day. The defense believed the burglary at the Medina house right across the street from Scott and Laci's was somehow involved in Laci's disappearance. However, the judge didn't think the cases were connected, so no one was allowed to mention the burglary at the trial.
Unreal.
Scott's half sister, Anne, was told to prepare herself to testify, so Anne started writing a list of all the reasons she believed that Scott was guilty. In the end, she was never asked to testify, but thankfully, she included that list in her book. We don't have time to get through them all because she had 33 reasons. So we're just going to go with a few. On January 12th, less than a month after Laci disappeared, Scott upgraded his porn package on TV. I don't know how Anne knows that, but the timing isn't great because January 12th, during the day, Scott attended Anne's son's christening. Because, of course, to make everything, more uncomfortable for Anne and the family, Anne and Laci were pregnant at the same time.
Mm.
So it's just, I mean, it's heartbreaking all around. So Scott flirted with Anne's babysitter to the point that the babysitter got uncomfortable. Anne also claims that Jackie and Lee told her if anyone asked her about Scott's interest in the babysitter, she was either supposed to deny it or claim to just not recall the situation. Scott made several trips to his house in Modesto to clean out the pool, even though he wasn't staying there. On three separate occasions, Jackie told Anne that Scott and Laci were having problems. And finally, Anne said when some cousins took Scott out bar hopping to, I guess, lift spirits or distract him or whatever, they stopped in at a gay bar, and Scott was, quote, bummed that no one hit on him. He said, I just really thought someone would. Does that mean he's guilty of murder? No, it just means he has a big ego and it is fragile. Anyway, in the closing statements, the prosecution claimed Scott wanted to live the bachelor life. No kids, no child support, no alimony. The defense, however, took a more passionate approach. We're not going to go into his entire closing argument, but this is how Mark Garagos started his closing. Quote, do you all hate him? That's the sum total of what we heard yesterday. 4 hours about he's the biggest jerk to walk the face of the earth. He's the biggest liar to walk the face of the earth. You should hate him. You should hate him. You should hate him. Don't bother with the 5 months worth of evidence. Passionate.
Mm.
Passionate. The jury deliberated for 9 days. During deliberations, 2 jurors were dismissed for misconduct. The Peterson family was confident that Scott would be acquitted, as there was no evidence proving how Laci and Connor died and no sign of a crime scene. But right before the verdict was read, one of the jurors winked at Laci's mother, so it shouldn't be a surprise when Scott was found guilty of first-degree murder regarding Laci and guilty of second-degree murder regarding Connor. A large crowd standing outside the courthouse cheered when the guilty verdict was read. The absolute hatred for Scott was intense. And I'm not suggesting Scott was the killer. I believe he damned himself with almost every single move he made, especially with the affair and going fishing that morning. The jury later said that the defense just didn't give them an alternate theory that might explain what happened to Laci and Connor. So to them, the only logical explanation was that Scott was guilty. During the sentencing phase, numerous people testified to help the jury decide whether to vote for the death penalty or against. Scott's parents both testified. His father, Lee, referred to Scott as his best friend and said, quote, I know he's not perfect, but he is genuinely a loving, caring, nurturing, kind, gentle soul. Not perfect, which is wild because you literally called him Mr. Perfect, but I
Yeah,
get it.
great point.
I get it. Scott's mother, Jackie, said, quote, I really feel if you were to take Scott away from us, they were like a family, Laci, Connor, and Scott. It would be a whole family wiped off the face of the earth. It would be like Laci never existed. Both Sharon and I would lose a whole family. Such a waste. It's irreversible.
To suggest that Laci's only identity is through her husband, get fucked.
Also, first issue for me was they were like a family. They were a family. The two of them, as a
Yeah.
married couple, were a family, and they were about to add to their family. So yeah, they were a family. But then to say Sharon's name and group the two of you together as your son was just convicted of murdering her daughter.
It's awful.
And you think that it's like, you can't do this to me and Sharon. It's like him, regardless as to what you feel about the death penalty, him being put to death does not like suddenly mean Laci no longer exists to her family. Like,
Right.
it's just such a,
So disgusting.
it's insane. Jackie asked Anne to testify on Scott's behalf. Anne declined.
Good for her.
Scott's sister Susan testified and said she didn't think her parents would survive if Scott was put to death. Laci's stepfather, Ron Gransky, testified. He said, quote, and I didn't get into the one that her mother said, because I can't. Um, but this one, him and we both are on the same page. Quote, I keep going back to New Year's Eve, the vigil in the park where everybody is crying, looking for Laci, and you're on the phone telling your girlfriend you're in Paris. How your family can look at you and say you're such a great kid. Something is wrong with you and your family because that's not right.
He nailed it.
Yeah. Oh,
Nailed it.
this to me was the biggest thing for him that I'm like, why the fact that you could continue that um try and continue that relationship. What was the thing? She would get found and then what you'd leave her and then just continue that relationship? Like it makes no sense to me. Um Laci's mother spoke and again I there weren't quotes I wanted to pull from it because oh boy, but there was a moment where she started talking from Connor's perspective. It it was difficult. So, in the end, the jury voted unanimously for the death penalty. In April 2009, Laci's mother Sharon dropped the wrongful death suit against Scott. In 2015, Scott's lawyers filed an appeal of his conviction, arguing that he didn't have a fair trial, specifically claiming issues with jury selection and impartiality. The appeal was denied. So Scott Peterson was officially convicted of murdering his wife and their unborn son, but the Peterson family still fully believe that Scott is innocent and are still pushing for him to be exonerated to this day. What makes them so sure of his innocence? Well, it turns out there were a lot of things that got left out of the trial. Investigative journalist Mike Gudgel initially covered the Peterson case back in 2002, but after moving on to other stories, including reporting from literal war zones, Mike found he just could not shake the Peterson case because he felt something wasn't right about it. In 2015, Mike started looking into the case again, believing the intense media coverage possibly led to a biased jury. The first thing that Mike looked into was the burglary at the Medina house. As mentioned in the previous episode, and briefly just moments ago, the Medina family lived at 516 Covina Avenue, which is right across the street from the Petersons, who were at 523. The Medinas went out of town to visit family over the holidays, leaving at 10:30 in the morning on December 24th and returning around 4:30 on December 26th. When the family returned home, they found that their side door, which was a set of French doors facing south, had been kicked in. Inside the house, drawers were pulled open, closets had been tossed, an unknown glove and hammer were found in the main bedroom. Two handguns, multiple power tools, a safe containing 3,000 cash, and jewelry worth more than $50,000 had been taken. A hand truck, which was normally stored in the tool shed behind the house, was left sitting on the front porch. It's believed the robbers used it to move the safe to a vehicle. After receiving an anonymous tip, police arrested 44-year-old Donald Pierce and 35-year-old Stephen Todd for the crime. When the two men realized the police were questioning them to see if they were connected to Laci's disappearance, they immediately confessed to the burglary and cooperated fully, including taking polygraph tests to try and prove they had nothing to do with the abduction. At first, Pierce and Todd claimed they robbed the house on the 27th, but since the Medina family came home the day before, I mean, that's not possible. Police then publicly stated they believed the burglary occurred between 3:30 and 6:30 in the morning on December 26th. Investigative journalist Mike Gudgel believes the street would have been swarming with police and journalists by then, so it's unlikely Pierce and Todd would consider robbing a house in that area at that time. Mike theorizes that the men robbed the house on the morning of the 24th and that Laci confronted them and was taken. When the homes of Pierce and Todd were searched by police, they discovered many of the items taken from the Medina home, but nothing belonging to Laci Peterson. So again, the police were quick to dismiss the entire thing, and even the judge at Scott's trial ruled that the cases weren't connected, so information about the burglary wasn't permitted during the trial. Stephen Todd pleaded guilty, and since it was his third strike, he should have been sentenced to at least 25 years. However, he was sentenced to 8 years and 8 months. Pierce also pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 180 days in prison. Donald Pierce passed away in October 2019 at the age of 60. When neighbor Diane Jackson heard about the burglary, she told police that on her way home from an appointment on December 24th, she saw a van parked outside the Medina house and three men standing on the Medina's front lawn. Diane described the three men as short and dark-skinned, but not African American. Now, assuming that was the actual time that Pierce and Todd robbed the house, who were the three men? Because both Pierce and Todd were Caucasian. So who were those dark-skinned men? Did Pierce and Todd have accomplices who didn't get caught? Diane said the vehicle was an older model, full-size van. In her first statement, she said it was white. The next time she said it was tan, and in a third interview, she said it was brown, which is a great example of eyewitnesses being unreliable and how memories can change over time. Diane said one of the van's back doors was slightly open, but she thought nothing of it at the time. She estimated that she saw the men and the van at 11:40. Mike Gudgel believes Laci saw the men when she returned home from walking the dog, and the men shoved her into their van. Well, on December 25th, an older model orange van was found abandoned in an alley about a mile from Laci's home. The van had been set on fire, so the inside was fairly torched. Investigators determined that the van belonged to a man who owned a moving and rigging company. According to the police report, the owner had numerous vehicles that his employees drove, and since they covered a large area, to save on gas, employees were allowed to take their vehicles home. The owner said he wasn't even aware that van was missing until police contacted him about it on the 25th. The last employee who had the vehicle said he parked it behind the moving company's building around 4:45 on the afternoon of December 20th. The employee claims he didn't know the van had been stolen until his boss told him. The employee had a criminal record, including a previous conviction for burglary, but when his house was searched by police, nothing was found that could connect him to the Medina burglary. The company owner, who, technically owned the van, was said to be friends with Stephen Todd, and Todd's wife's sister lived right near where the van was found. Mike Gudgel suggested that if the van had been just used in a burglary, they could have returned it to its original spot and no one would have known any better. The fact that they set it on fire suggests someone was trying to cover something up. An arson investigator searched the van and found an old mattress in the back that was mostly burnt, but whoever set the fire left a large round metal gas can on top of the mattress, likely thinking that it was going to catch fire. However, the gas can actually saved a small section of the mattress from the fire, and that section had stains on it that looked like blood. The fabric was cut from the mattress and tested with luminol, came back as positive for blood. The Department of Justice picked up the sample and had it tested in a lab. It came back as negative for blood. So was the first test wrong, or are we getting conspiracy and this was all part of a cover-up? The Peterson family believe that the three men seen by Diane Jackson abducted Laci, so they want the mattress tested for DNA because they believe that if the DNA comes back as a match to Laci, it will prove that Scott is innocent. Why does the family believe so strongly that the Medina burglary is linked to Laci's case? Because on December 31st, a watch similar to one owned by Laci Peterson was sold at a pawn shop in Modesto. In November, Laci inherited a large amount of jewelry from her grandmother. Among the items was a 14-karat gold Croton watch with 44 diamonds around the front bezel. Laci absolutely did not like the watch. She said she thought it was gaudy, so she never wore it. In fact, Scott and Laci had taken videos of it and had tried previously to sell it on eBay in early December. After Laci's disappearance, the watch was not found in her home, so the Peterson family believe that it is proof that Laci was taken by the Medina house burglars. After the watch was pawned, the owner of the shop was putting it into a database that he uses, and it kind of got flagged as like a potential missing item. He contacted the police. They picked the watch up, but as of now, no one has a clue where that watch is. Is it possible that the woman, who was identified as Deanna Renfro, pawned Laci's watch? It was the same brand, and Laci's watch is missing, so it's possible. The pawn shop receipt says there were scratches on the watch. Laci's watch was in brand new condition, but it's possible if it was stolen, it got scratched in the process. The strange thing for me is the receipt doesn't mention anything about there being diamonds on the watch, um, which Laci's watch absolutely had. So is it possible it was a different watch altogether? Because to me, if Laci didn't wear that watch normally, why would she randomly put it on to go walk the dog? That just feels odd to me.
Yeah.
Were there any other burglaries in the area at the time? $50,000 worth of jewelry was taken from the Medina house. Did they include a Croton watch? I assume if it did, that would have been made public by now, but who knows? Deanna Renfro was given $20 for that watch. You would think even with the scratches, she'd get more since there were 44 diamonds on it. That is, if it was Laci's watch. Does the burglary and the torched van and the potentially stolen watch mean that Scott Peterson is innocent? Maybe, but only speculating. It could also mean that Scott hired someone to abduct Laci and gave them the watch as partial payment. And maybe when the watch was taken by police, they put Laci's body in the bay near the spot where Scott had publicly stated he was at the time to simply try and frame him. I know I'm really writing a story here. It's just it's just so hard for me to believe that based on everything he's done, that he's not in some way involved in all of this. Again, it's just my opinion because who knows? He could be innocent. The case was very circumstantial. Um, when the police first started focusing on Scott as a suspect, the Peterson family hired a private investigator to find Laci. He canvassed the neighborhood, and several people claimed to have seen Laci after Scott left the house. He said police didn't take the witness statements seriously enough, but some, it turns out, had the wrong day. There was a couple who said they saw her and she was walking at 9:30, which is when Scott was allegedly watching Martha Stewart with Laci at home. So it's hard to know exactly what those witnesses saw and when. Russell Graybill, who works as a mail carrier, said he delivered mail on Covina Avenue between 10:19 and 12:05 on the 24th. It was estimated he would have been near the Peterson home between 10:35 and 10:50. Russell said every single day the Petersons' dog barks at him when he delivers to that house, but on that day there was no barking. Russell also claimed that the gate was open, so the Petersons are saying that this is proof that Laci was out walking the dog at that time and that she was alive after Scott left the house. My first question is, if Laci didn't go for a walk until 10:30 or later, then why was the dog wandering the neighborhood with a muddy leash when Karen Service put the dog back in the yard at 10:18? Karen sees the dog at 10:18, puts her in the yard where she remained until Scott got home until 6 hours later. So are we supposed to believe that Laci was abducted during the walk and the dog managed to get home on her own? If so, why wasn't the dog in the yard when the gate was open? And why was the gate open when the mail carrier stopped by between 10:35 and 10:50? Are we supposed to believe that Laci went for a walk sometime between 10:35 and 10:50? Well, then why was the dog running around the neighborhood wearing a leash 20 minutes earlier? The timeline in this entire thing is so frustrating. I wish there were doorbell cameras back then
Mm.
because there are so many now that easily there would be like actual footage of her somewhere. Um, there was also a witness named Tom Harshman who claimed he saw a pregnant woman being forced into a van around 6:50 in the evening. He said it was clear the woman needed a bathroom, and the would-be abductors took the woman over to a fence and then forced her back into a van. He said the woman was wearing a red shirt and black pants, and the vehicle was described as an older model van, white, with a tan stripe. Tom was so disturbed by what he saw that he called the police to report it. And concerned he wasn't being taken seriously, he called a second time. According to police logs, these calls came in on December 28th. But there's some confusion because it seems that Tom is saying he saw this on December 24th. So you saw something that concerned you and then waited 4 days to contact the police? Or are you just misremembering the date? And since Laci was not found wearing a red shirt or black pants, it's tough to believe that it was her. The idea that her potential abductors would give her a change of clothes just seems very unlikely. Then there's Xavier Aponte, a former correctional officer. He claims in January 2003, one of his coworkers was monitoring inmate calls at the prison when he overheard someone say that Laci had seen Stephen Todd robbing the house across the street, and she interrupted the burglary. The coworker told Xavier what he had heard, so Xavier called the tip line that police had set up to collect information about Laci's disappearance. Xavier said the police never returned his call, so he called back a week later. When a detective looked into it, he said the story changed. And suddenly, Xavier couldn't remember the name of the coworker who gave him the information. And then, when he first got the information, he never wrote it down in his work log, so we don't have exactly when that happened. Um, and then this means that the tape of this supposed conversation was not saved. The detective said Xavier later recanted. The Scott Peterson documentary interviewed Xavier, and he denied ever recanting, but he did, however, admit that he thought the statement was just hearsay and that it was like something heard, that whatever was heard on the phone call was like talk from the street as opposed to an actual fact. So, what has Scott Peterson's case looked like since this trial? Well, Scott's lawyer pointed out that there was an issue regarding jury selection. The judge told jurors that if they were against the death penalty, they were excused. Well, in California, the law states the judge has to ask further questions about why a potential juror is against it or not. But since the judge in Scott's case did not do that, in August 2020, Scott's death penalty sentence was overturned by the California Supreme Court. The court did, however, uphold Scott's conviction, so he was re-sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In December 2002, Scott requested a new trial, but was denied. In 2003, the Los Angeles Innocence Project got involved, and after a year-long investigation, they said that they had uncovered evidence and witness statements which they believe undermine the evidence that was presented against Scott during the initial trial. Some of the evidence includes their use of a computer model that they say proves that Laci and Connor's remains couldn't have migrated from the Brooks Island area and end up where they eventually were found. They believe Laci's body was placed in the water from a nearby area that was accessible by car and by foot. They also claimed that the police ignored eyewitness statements from people who claimed to have seen Laci on the morning of the 24th, and they believe the burglary from the Medina home happened the same day Laci went missing, not on the 26th, like the police had thought. The Los Angeles Innocence Project filed a motion to have 14 items, such as the mattress from the van, items from the burglary, and items found near the remains, tested for DNA. The request was denied. However, they were given permission to DNA test a 15-inch long piece of duct tape that was attached to Laci's pants when her remains were found. The test found the presence of human DNA, but it was not strong enough to determine a profile. So it's still uncertain if the duct tape was used in the crime or if it was simply debris from the water. The Los Angeles Innocence Project has since filed a post-trial discovery motion seeking evidence regarding the Medina burglary, the burned-out van, and the Pond Croton watch. They continue to fight for Scott's exoneration. Detective Al Brocchini, who was one of the lead detectives on the case, said, quote, "We never intentionally withheld evidence. We never hid evidence. All tips were investigated." As of this record, Scott Peterson remains in prison. He now says that he regrets not testifying at the trial. I don't think that would have helped.
It would not have.
Um,
No way.
yeah. His sister-in-law, Janie, who is married to Scott's half-brother Joe, went back to school to earn a law degree so that if Scott ever gets a new trial, she can be part of his defense. It is interesting to me how Janie has always been like the main face for the family when talking about Scott publicly. Scott's sister Susan is sometimes like at press conferences and in documentaries, but not nearly as much as Janie. It just fascinates me. Um, a sister-in-law, again, fascinating. Both of Scott's parents have since passed away. Jackie Peterson passed in October 2013 at the age of 70. Lee Patterson passed in October 2024 at the age of 85. Laci's stepfather, Ron Gransky, passed away in April 2018 at the age of 71. In 2004, a made-for-TV movie was released about this case. It was called The Perfect Husband, The Laci Peterson Story, and it starred Dean Cain as Scott Peterson. Wait, so Dean Cain was cast as a man who at first appears to be charming, but then turns out to be a total jackass? Wow, that casting director really nailed it. Reporting for part two, I'm Christy Oxborrow.
Oh God, I couldn't love it more. Let's take a quick break, hit the can, grab a drink, and we'll be back with our final thoughts on the Laci Peterson Part 2 episode of True Crime and Cocktails. Clap two on three. One, two, three. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing Laci Peterson Part 2. Let's get into it. Here is an unpopular take that I'm sure people will have many opinions about, but, and I alluded to in the last episode, I personally believe, given just the evidence and the trial, Scott Peterson shouldn't be in jail. Now, does that mean that I think he's innocent? No. I don't know what I think, to be 100% honest, because there's no evidence. And if you've listened to this show for more than this episode, you'll know that I am a stickler that the justice system works the way it does to protect all of us. And it says there has to be no reasonable doubt. And I am so sorry, but in this case, there's nothing but reasonable doubt. There's no physical evidence. It's all circumstantial. And this man buried himself every step of the way, making him seem more guilty than ever. And then the other thing I'll say is terrible fucking lawyer to not call to not call any of the witnesses that could have offered another alternative. I understand why the jury convicted him because they weren't given an alternative. It's like, well, I guess then I guess we just have to assume it was him. But that's the thing. You're assuming it was him. There's nothing proving that Scott did this crime. And I hate that I'm saying it because I think he's a piece of shit. But that still doesn't change the fact that any of us, if any of us were in this position, God forbid, you would want a fair trial where if there was any shred of doubt, you're not convicted. This man got the death penalty for a crime with no physical evidence.
Yeah.
That's wild. And it's, in my opinion, it's just because he's so hateable. So, with that in mind, I think it's important to explore what those other options could be. And I'm going to put this out there from the get. The first time I even learned about this case, the second that it came out that this fishing expedition that morning was 90 miles away, I was like, he's creating an alibi.
Yeah, I thought that
Immediately.
mid-episode when I was like, why would he go that far away? And my brain went, because he wants to be like, I was way over there. How could I have done it? I was
It's
away
the
all day.
Right. It's the time he was driving. It's the time on the water. It's the time driving back. The fact that he bought that $13 of gas, because it's like, why did he buy $13 of gas? I'm going to tell you why. The
Eh,
alibi. Because he didn't, he had a, I'm writing, this is a theory. Go with me. He had a full tank of gas when he went,
mhm.
but he knew that on the way back, he wanted to stop and get gas so he would have a receipt with a time on it. And it was only $13. He only had used $13 worth of gas. So he filled it as much as he could fill it. Again, I'm not saying I think the man is innocent. I'm saying I don't think it's as cut and dry as he murdered his wife and took her out on that boat and dumped her body. Because let's also keep in mind, if we are to believe, even if she was strangled or smothered, and we
Mm.
know that he had, um, I'm jumping around a lot, please follow me. When he was pulled over with the blonde hair much later,
Yep,
they found sleeping pills in the car, didn't they?
they did.
So it's more than possible that she never woke up that morning. It could be more than possible that he had drugged her, slipped her sleeping pills, whatever. Um, to me, it's more than possible. Did he feed her breakfast that morning? Did he get up and make sure she ate the food, the whatever it was, the milk and cereal? Is it possible he
Mm.
laced that milk with tons of sleeping pills? And here's my theory. Then he leaves. I don't know that he physically killed her.
Interesting.
It's possible again. Okay, on the other hand, let's say he drugs her, he smothers her or strangles her himself. Um, to me, now listen, we know that this man likes to play fast and loose. He'll be in public with a woman that he's having an affair with, no problem. So I'm not saying that he wouldn't be above moving her body in the light of day. But A, is it possible he killed her the night before and then loaded her body into a car in the dark, which feels more plausible to me? But then to me, how did he get that body onto that boat? This is what I come back to. I think it's possible he could have hired someone to kill her, or he killed her and he hired someone else to deal with the body and he got out of there.
Mm.
To me, the 90 miles away is an alibi. I just don't,
Mm.
it falls apart to me that he would have somehow gotten her body. Okay, I can believe that he got the body into the car without really being noticed, but getting the body from the car into the boat, into the lake, I mean, that's a bold move.
That is
Nobody
true.
saw him. I guess maybe it's like, did he know that that marina was like not there wasn't a lot of people, so it was like an easier place to go? I don't know. But with all of this in mind, let's go through the rest of it and see where all of the pieces can try and come together. Because this is what I'm coming at this. This is the point of view I'm coming at this from. Um. Okay. Oh, this is all about the other stuff. This is all about the family, which is wild. Every detail about that family is more interesting than the last. I just have
Right?
to say. Yeah. It's also interesting that Jackie was taken to a care home when she was 5, and then she also ended up giving up multiple children for adoption. Feels like there's
Mm.
something there. Um, okay. Also, the detail that her father was murdered. It's like, what are the chances? I think there is something to like these some family lines. There's like theories about like patterns, that keep showing themselves.
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, I'm just skimming here to make sure I get to the points I want to, because really all I want to talk about is uh theories about how this could have gone down. Oh yeah. Okay, the clothes. Here we go. Scott said she was last wearing something specific, right? White shirt
Yes.
and black pants, I
Yes.
think. People said they saw her that morning, white shirt, black pants, but she's found in white shirt, cream pants.
I don't know what color the shirt was, but it was not white or red, from what I
Okay.
understand.
So, couple things. One, it's convenient. Let's say that he was not let's say he didn't murder her, but he was behind the killing. it would make sense that he would tell them clothes that were different than what she was found in to create confusion, right? That
Mm.
I could buy that. Is it also possible? Go with me on this. Let's say Scott is innocent for a second. I know it's wild to conceive. He leaves. She goes on this walk. Now the timeline is fucked. So we'll keep it loose. But she goes on this walk. She comes across this robbery in progress
Okay.
in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Most people are going to say something. Some of us are going to scurry back to our home and call 911.
Sure.
But I could see her being like, what the fuck? Also, she had the dog. She may feel more emboldened to say something.
Sure.
Is it possible? They're like, fuck you, grab her. They're robbing a house where a woman
Mhm.
lives. Is it possible that they either killed her and then changed her clothes from clothes that were in the house? Because they're not going to, I mean, if they've ransacked this house, they've stolen all these different things. Is the woman of the house going to go through every item of clothing that she has and make sure she can account for every single pair of pants or shirt or whatever?
Sure. Sure.
Is it possible? Because again, the head has never been found. So are we to believe that the clothes that she was found in weren't covered in blood? Was she changed after she was killed, is my point.
Interesting.
Because there's no other explanation for it to me.
Right. I had heard, and again, like the details about the exact clothing have never been, I just know that they were cream colored pants, and then they don't really talk about the shirt. But I had heard people who saw her on the 23rd said she was wearing cream colored pants.
Interesting.
And so there was the thought of like, was she murdered that night, sort of a thing. But I did see photos of their like room and their laundry, and you can see there is a pair of like cream colored pants in the laundry. So it's like, I think that was like Scott's family, like, look, it's proof she wasn't wearing the same pants or whatever. And I'm like, I mean, it's more than possible she has this. If you once you find a pair of pants that are comfortable, especially as a pregnant woman, you're going to buy 80 pairs of those, and that's what you're going to live in. As a not pregnant, but like thick lady, that was unnecessary. Um, I have a pair of pants that I wear in the summer. Hell, I wore them like 2 weeks ago when the weather got above zero because they're just so comfortable for me. I have those pants in at least five different pairs. They're all exactly the same. They're all black. You can't tell. Like I could wear the same, like different pairs every day, and people would just assume I'm in the same outfit. Did she have multiple pairs of that? Like, so it just seems weird to me that, yeah, he was like, oh, black pants, white shirt. And she was not found with either.
Again, I'm not convinced that she wasn't last seen in that and then she was changed. I'm not
Oh, it's
convinced.
possible.
Because, well, and then the big thing for me is that fucking mattress in that van.
Mm,
The fact that they've not tested it, why was it not tested for DNA? Like, this is the stuff that infuriates me. Like, again, there's no reason not to test it for DNA. Why wouldn't you? Regardless of Laci Peterson even being a case. You
yeah.
find an abandoned van that's been burned, and you happen to find a piece of the mattress that actually is pristine, but seems to have blood stain on it. One test says it's blood, another test says it's another. What does it cost you to run the DNA? To try, like, I will never understand that for as long as I live because who knows? Here's another thing. Maybe another woman or man or person was killed on that fucking mattress.
Yeah.
What does it hurt to run the DNA? That's the piece of this case, much like I was saying the Eiffel Tower in for the first part.
Mm,
That's the other part of this case that unravels me because the bottom line is If it was human blood, don't you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
The fact that it was burned, like clearly something was being hidden. Anyway,
Yeah,
let me back up for a second. So let's go back to, let's say Scott somehow hired somebody.
sure.
Isn't it possible that they staged that robbery or they made that robbery a part of it to cover what was happening?
Interesting. It does seem wild that that house right across the street, with all the suspicion of him and how he felt about his life, just on the like, and also right after he leaves, a robbery just happens.
Because here's the thing. If if that robbery is just completely unrelated, which I find hard to believe, but let's say for a second, they would have been casing that house.
Yeah,
They would have to know when there was nobody home. So, were they casing that house? Or were they doing two things at once?
interesting.
Were they also watching her? I just can't believe that it's not related. It just feels impossible.
Yeah,
And the fact again that those guys immediately, Donald Pearson, Stephen Todd, when they were like, "Ooh, they think that maybe we have something to do with the murder, we'll confess to the burglary." How convenient. Because sure, on one hand, you could say, "Oh my God, we didn't do this murder. We have to tell the truth. Like we can't go up for murder." But by the way, also, it's a great fucking it's a great way to do less time, right? If you did
true.
commit a murder or you did move a body or you did abduct somebody,
Yeah. My whole thing was always if she was supposedly like taken from her home, or like assuming these guys are robbing the house across the street, then whether they see her and take her or whether she comes over to confront them and they take her, I'm also like, so if you were robbing the place, her house is now unlocked. Why
yeah,
aren't you going in there and taking stuff? Because she had like all kinds of jewelry and stuff laying around. Well, not like
right.
laying around, but like she had stuff in very obvious places in her home, and it was all still there. So it just feels interesting to me that if you're gonna, if you're in the middle of a robbery and then you decide, well, we're gonna commit murder now, why wouldn't you also rob her house? Or to your point, was the robbery just to be like, well, it had nothing to do with her. She was it was an accident, or it was she was not intended, when it's like it was intended. It's been planned.
It gets them into the area, it gets them in there. I don't know. I don't know. But again, there is a world in which she came upon them robbing that house. It escalates. They don't intend to kill her. They kill her. Or they grab her and put her in the back of the van and then they're like, "What the fuck are we gonna do now? We've just kidnapped a pregnant woman.
Right?
We gotta just deal with this." Killed her, didn't know what to do with her. And then I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had put out into the public where
Where
Scott
Scott
had been.
was. Yeah.
And I do think there is something interesting about the work, because I remember from that documentary too, the work that the Innocence Project did, and that it just doesn't feel with like the tides and the currents and everything that it would be actually possible that if the bodies were dumped there, they'd be found where they were.
Right.
It does seem interesting to me that as soon as it came out that it was like this is where he was the morning of, and why would they make that public? But anyway, um, that's the area where the bodies were found. It's completely plausible.
Oh, it
She was
is.
killed by somebody else, kept somewhere else, and then was placed there. That is completely plausible.
A
And
hundred
again,
percent.
the fact that that judge wouldn't let in anything about that house robbery is crazy to me. It's crazy. Again, it's just to me, it's like there's nothing that's as much as we fucking hate him. There's nothing just
Yeah.
about that trial, in my opinion. And you said, like again, like the jurors said, well, we weren't provided any other options. We weren't provided any other explanations. So And it's like, well, still it feels like you're supposed to, if you think there's any reasonable doubt, you're not supposed to convict. But I understand the mentality. The fact that two jurors were removed from deliberations,
Yeah, the fact
it
that
obviously got heated.
they lost three throughout the course of it. They lost the one a month in
Right.
because he was seen talking to Lacey's brother, and then they lost two for misconduct, which I'm fascinated to know
Yeah.
more about.
The fact that they weren't allowed to test any of the other things they wanted to for DNA is so weird to me. It's so weird to me. But listen, here's the bottom line. I love Ron's speech that he gave about like something's wrong with you and something's wrong with your family if they think you're a good guy. I think that's on the nose, spot on. I think, the watch does nothing for me. I, could be, could not. It doesn't. You know what I mean? I'm like, whatever.
I just like the way you worded that. That's all.
The watch doesn't feel like a smoking gun to me. The mattress feels
Oh,
important to
yeah.
me.
Hmm. I get that.
And listen, if you've listened to this show or you've consumed virtually any true crime, it is a fact that police get tunnel vision either accidentally
Mm.
or deliberately, and they decide who they like for the crime, and then they go, fuck everything else. All we have to do is prove that.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be an element at play here.
There
There
could.
wasn't anything else explored. Final point I want to make, because I was just talking, going, what was the other thing you wanted to say? The lack of crime scene.
Mm.
No crime scene in her home. The only other possibility for a crime scene, if we're taught like how good could Scott possibly have been at this? This is my other question, right? Like it's like if that head was removed and the hands and feet were removed prior to her going in the water, where's the blood?
Yeah, for me, I just think if he was involved in any way, I could see it being like, to your point, the sleeping pills or something along those lines. I don't think he would decapitate her. I have nothing to base that on. I just don't
Well,
know.
it's I mean, yeah.
But then I, I just don't, yeah. Like, is it possible that, like, yeah, even then, that's a lot of blood. I was going to say the throat was cut to the point where the head was no longer attached to the body, which I feel gross saying that out loud. But yeah, I just think if he did it, it was like a strangling, smothering, poisoning, something along those lines.
I mean, it
Mm.
changes, it escalates when you decapitate somebody.
Oh,
Straight up.
it's something else. And yet, look, like him saying that he really regrets not testifying at the trial. I'm just like, are you really so delusional that you think whatever you possibly could have said was gonna be enough that the jury would be like, oh, that guy?
Yeah, he's a true narcissist. Of course he
Because,
does.
I mean, and I know, like, the whole thing is horrific, all of it. I will never get over the whole Paris thing. That bothered me.
No, same. That
Uh,
was the biggest
that
thing for me.
it's just that's a next level kind of a person that, first of all, that can, the layer of lying to your girlfriend and being like, I'm sorry, I can barely hear you. The fireworks you wouldn't believe. Like, that whole bullshit is insane. But also, what a great way to prove, in case she can hear a lot of people around you, to be like, obviously, that's where I am. I'm gonna have to let you go. I can't hear, like that. Like, he was like yelling as though he was really, that is a one level. And already, like, that's something. Trying to continue on this relationship like it's no big deal. And then coming up with excuses like that and insane lies to justify why you can't see her, because of course you can't have cops or the press watch you casually meet up with a woman. So you have to keep pushing and be like, "Oh, I can't see. I'm in Paris. I'm actually headed to Europe. I'm going to be gone. I'm duck hunting in Maine. I won't be there." So he had to keep coming up with excuses. I'm just like, how long would he have gone on? How
Oh,
long would he have done this? It's just wild. But for me, I mean, that again, the Paris thing, well, it bothers me to a level. But there was something in in the face-to-face documentary where they were interviewing him, and it's just like the smallest comment that he made, because they're obviously trying, because he's so unlikable, that they're trying so hard to be like, look, he's just an everyday guy. He's just a guy who's like still grieving his wife and whatever. And anytime he would talk about her, I'd get my back up a bit because I'm like, I don't want to. You couldn't even give a word as to what you loved about her. When somebody
no.
asked, you said, look at her photo. And it's like, wow. Um, but he was talking about like the little things that he like holds on to still. And he said something about like he remembers that morning watching Lacey do her hair. And I was like, did, when did she do that? Did she do it after like over an hour after she got up? Okay. Because he claims she was already up and she was all of that. And then he said they shared a bowl of cereal. And that's the smallest of things. But I'm like, wait a minute. When it first happened, you said you got up an hour after she did, and she ate immediately when she gets up. And so an hour later, you shared a bowl of cereal? It's like she ate. And I understand. Are we saying like he then had cereal and she was like, I'll have some of that? I don't know. I'm just so bothered by him trying to be like, look how loving we were.
Well,
Look
I
at the
also
two of
could
us.
to build on my idea that he's poisoned her in the milk that she used. He could just be saying we shared the bowl to try and throw them off the scent that the milk was laced with sleeping pills.
I mean, it's more than possible.
Listen, do I think that he's capable of murder? Yes. Do I think he's
Mm.
capable of murdering her? Absolutely. Do I think that he was involved in it? Probably. Do I think he should have been convicted in that trial? I don't. I
Mm.
just don't. I think that I just think it's wild. And I think, listen, again, the only person to blame for him getting, truly, for him getting convicted is himself.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I said in the last episode, if he had just made different choices after she had died, after she had been taken, rather, he could have made himself appear more sympathetic and perhaps wouldn't have become this like, you know,
100%.
detestable figure that everybody just wants to see, But again, he's going on ski trips after she's been taken. He's going golfing and he's doing all these things like nothing he did. And that's the thing that I think is hard for people in general to wrap their heads around, which is like, but if you really loved her and you were really grieving, how could you do this? And it just reminds me, and I do have to just say, and I won't belabor it, but it does remind me of Casey Anthony. It's the
Mm.
same concept where it was like, how could you be partying? How could you be doing this? Like, it's the same thing. Somebody who again made themselves, regardless of whatever the truth is or isn't, someone who made themselves impossible to like, impossible to believe, terrible choices. It's like with
100%.
Casey Anthony, it's like to be crass. It's like you can't even lay low just to make yourself look better. You can't take some like 6 months off of partying to like, I don't know, just not look so guilty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There again, like him hitting on the babysitter
Oh,
to the point where she was
stupid.
uncomfortable, and the point where he then talked about this babysitter to his mother, where he was like, so I met someone. Like, gross. And the point that the mother was like, "Oh, I wish he could meet someone like you," which she said to the
Deranged.
babysitter, and then later at a different point told Anne, according to Anne, that it was like, "I wish Scott could meet someone like her."
Deranged.
And I'm like, that's like at this point, we're like a month or two into her disappearance. Again, like I get the concept of like you're trying to keep your life normal, you're trying to do something. I just can't ever imagine being in that position and being like, let's ski it up, hit the slopes. Like I just can't
No. And that's my
imagine
thing
it.
too, is that it's like, even if you were guilty, why would you ever make, like, even more so, why would you make that choice? You're just making yourself look more guilty.
I actually kind of just think he was so arrogant.
Yeah, true narcissism.
He's
Yeah.
like, no one would ever believe it. And it's like, okay, well, it's like I could do anything. Because again, his parents were constantly like, oh, golden boy. He's the favorite. He's whatever. You can't tell me that he wasn't like, I've been getting away with things my whole life.
Yeah.
So people are obviously going to love me because everybody does. And it's like, oh,
Oh, I remember one last thing I wanted to comment on. Him telling his sister Anne about, well, I was on a flight. I was taking turns going between two bathrooms with two women.
yeah.
Why are you telling your sister that?
Yeah, I don't know. I,
And
mm,
I remember this time, this is way too much information, but this is many, 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 many moons ago. I remember I went to couples therapy with a boyfriend. And one of the things I had brought up was him talking to me about like, oh yeah, that girl, I hooked up with her. I had a threesome with her and so so. And I was just like, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't care. It's not my business. Like, I don't want to know. And this therapist said something to me that I never forgot, and I thought of it in this moment. She turned and she said, "Wow, you really want her to know that other women like you, huh?" And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting.
ah,
I never thought about it that way.
look how desirable I am.
Look how all the women I could get because you think you're
Yeah.
so pathetic and you think you are so undeserving, in that case of me, that you had to try and make it look like you're in such high demand."
Wow.
And and again, that guy was also a complete psycho. So I just feel like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, that came to mind in that moment where I was like, why would he tell his sister that? And then I went, oh, because he really wants his sister to know how popular he is, how he can have
Right.
anybody. Because the truth is that he is such full of such self-loathing that he has to say it to everybody, including his own sister, his own family member. He needs everybody to know how desirable he is. It's the same reason why he's constantly having affairs. It's to prove it to himself because
Hmm.
he's so broken that he has to try and do anything to convince himself otherwise. The true definition of a narcissist. Bottom line, this case is just the ultimate tragedy. This
Mm.
poor woman, this poor unborn child, horrific, grisly, terrible, and I think ultimately equally as horrifying that in my opinion, not real justice. The case was not given everything it could have been given. Because by the way, if they truly investigated every other lead, ran the fucking DNA on the mattress, all of that shit, and it all came back as it was like, no, it really was Scott. Great. At least then we all really know. But the
Right.
justice, the injustice is that they didn't take it seriously. They didn't do their full jobs. And now there's always a question mark.
Right.
And so even if he is rightfully imprisoned because he really did commit this murder, to me, it's not true justice because it wasn't handled in a truly just manner. And that,
100%.
folks, is my TED Talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I mean, do you just like hear a single interview with him and go, "Oh God, like this
Yeah, he's
man,
awful.
yeah, he's not a great person." Um, but yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of like he didn't want to be a father. He was unhappy, all of these things, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, but there's no physical like proof that he did it. But at the same time, taking that boat out as far as he did
Hmm.
screams, I need an alibi.
Yeah.
There's just no way. And I'm again, I'm just like, how is this going to play out for you? Like assuming if he hired someone or whatever and then was using that as an alibi, then I'm just like, okay, okay. So, what was the game plan? Like, was the thought like she'd never be found and then 6 months to a year later, you'd be like, I'm ready to move on. My heart has healed. Did you think Amber was going to drag through that with you? How long were you going to keep it from her?
I don't know that he thought things through that much.
Because it just feels insane of like, what was the plan? And then what if she gets found? You're then a grieving widow and she's brought you back to life? Like,
Yeah.
and you think Amber will be like, oh my God, okay, yeah, your wife died.
I
Or
mean, listen, we've heard wasn't it the like the number one killer of pregnant women is their partners? Isn't that a statistic?
that could be.
Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure that's true though. Um, my point just being that it's like we hear these stories all the time. And typically, it's in a heteronormative situation where it is a man that does not want that child or does not want that relationship. And so rather than just saying, I don't want this, kills the woman and the unborn child or children and, live children to try and get himself out of that situation, which to me in general, to your point, it's hard to apply logic to that because it's so illogical. It's like
Mm,
you've traded one issue for a million issues. Like, what are you thinking?
right.
How is that ever going to be the choice? It's insane, but again, our brains don't work the same way as their broken brains do. So, I don't know. And it's a great question. Like what was his plan? Where did he see this going? What was this possibly going to do? And we'll literally never know.
No, because there's no way, even if he was involved in any way at any level, there's no way he's ever going to admit to it.
No.
He's gone
No, no.
so far at this point, and I just I just don't believe he'll
I've just
ever.
double checked it. And in the United States, homicide is the leading cause of death for pregnant and postpartum women.
Mm. I mean, it's like Evelyn Hernandez.
Yeah.
There's no way I don't think it wasn't him. He said he didn't want a baby. His wife had realized he was cheating. There's no way he wasn't involved in that.
100%.
Allegedly.
Oh, well, yeah.
The fact that police are just like, well, there's no evidence.
Yeah,
It's like, uh-huh, uh-huh. It's like, but did you try in this one? I don't know if you did.
I know. Well, listen, Christy Oxborough, fantastic work as
Mm.
always. A two-parter, a triumph, one of the most confounding, maddening cases um, of our generation. Thank you for your work.
Oh, look, it's an honor. And I think we're just going to do one episode a week from now
Yeah,
on. I think, yeah,
listen,
for my
it's an
brain.
investment in our future. And we thank you, dear listeners, for being here. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some of that sweet, sweet bonus content, go over to patreon.com/, True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And of course, the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, Mary Cosby.
Don't know this one. Cannot wait to learn about it. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Oh, Good night, Glenn Hagel.
Good night, you sleep slut. It's funny again. It's funny again.